dear students, we are on the CEC-UGC lecture and today we will discuss the memory devices. Now, we discuss the characteristics of the memory devices. In this section, we will discuss what are the characteristics of the memory devices and what are their definitions and what are their importance. First characteristics of the memory device is the storage capacity for which it is made. So, this parameter storage capacity denotes the total memory of the device and it is generally expressed in terms of the bytes and how much byte can be stored in the system. So, for example, a memory of the 1 kilobyte into the 8 bits can store, it means 1024 into 8 is equal to 8192 bytes of the digital data we can store in a system. Next is the unit of the data transfer. This is the number of bits that can be read or write in a single read or write cycle. That is called the unit of data transfer. In journal, the unit of data transfer is equal to the word length or the size of the data bus of the processor. How much data we are going to be transfer in the form of the read and write, that is in the form of the data bus of the processor. Now next is the mode of the access. It refers to the way in which the data can be read or write to the memory. This is the access, how we read and write the data. That is the mode of the access. And there are the following modes used in the digital memory devices to access the data. First access is the sequential access. In this mode, the data is read from or write to the memory in a predefined sequential manner. And in other words, if we take it as the access the second file, we first process the first file to access the third file. Firstly access the first and second and so on. So, this is a sequentially access memory where just we read and write the memory in the predefined sequential manner. So, we will take firstly we access the first, second and then so on. Next is the random access. In this mode, we can directly access any memory location in any order. It means we are not just doing the sequentially one by one, but in randomly we can select the any memory location. So, it is directly access any location. Next is the direct access. This mode is a combination of the sequential and the random access mode, and it is in terms of the semi-random access mode. Means directly if we use the sum, we go to the sum address, then we will go randomly first we access the data, then we just take that data. So, this is a direct access. Next is the data transfer rate, and it is defined as the amount of data that is read or write in the 1 second, and it is generally measured in the bit per second. Data transfer rate and how much data we can send in the seconds. So, data transfer rate is referred to as the bandwidth of the memory. This is very important, that how we define the bandwidth of the memory. It is a data transfer rate that we will measure the data transfer to read and write in a 1 second, right? And this is a data transfer rate. Next is the type of memory devices. Now, this is very important, how we classify the memory devices. Some of the important classification of the memory devices used in the computer and the digital system are in the many ways. Like classification of the memory on the basis of the nature of the data storage. That is the volatile memory and the non-volatile memory. And classified on the basis of the access mode, then we have the two type of the memory devices. First is the sequentially access memory, second is the random access memory. So, on the basis of the nature of the data storage, volatile and non-volatile, on the basis of access mode, that is a sequential access and the random access. What is the volatile memory? This is volatile memory is that requires a continuous power supply to maintain the stored data is called the volatile memory. Means we require the power supply continuously when we store the data, that is the volatile memory. And if the power supply to the memory is turned off, the data stored in it will be lost, that is the volatile. Therefore, it is also called the temporary memory. Volatile memory is the temporary memory. What are the properties of the volatile memory? Volatile memory loses its stored data when the power supply to it is turned off. So, volatile memory has a fast operation speed, thus it can read and write data in the short span of the time. Now, the volatile memory is used to store the data required to access and perform operation. What are the example of this? It is the RAM, that is a random access memory. This is the volatile memory. RAM, you have listened many times that how much RAM we have in a computer system or in electronic system, that is a volatile memory. Now, the non-volatile memory, this is a type of memory which can retain the stored data even when no power supply is present, that is known as the non-volatile memory, and it is called the permanent memory and is stored for a longer time. Means it is used for long time storage of the digital data, that is a non-volatile memory. What are the properties of non-volatile memory? This non-volatile memory stores data permanently first, and it can retain the stored data even when the supply is switched off. Non-volatile memory is slower than that of the volatile memory. Hence, this memory has a longer read and write cycle. What are the example of the non-volatile memory? Is the ROM, that is a read only memory. That is a magnetic tape, optical disc, magnetic disc, USB drives, etc. are the non-volatile memory devices, that is the ROM. Now, next type on the basis of the access, that is the classification on the basis of access of the data, that is a sequential access memory. This is this type of the memory in which the stored data and information is accessed in the predefined sequential manner, that is a sequential access memory. Sometimes it is also called the serial access memory, as the stored data is retrieved in a serial order. So, this is the serial access memory. And in the sequential access memory, the system must search the storage data from the beginning of the memory address until it finds the required piece of the data. Then when it is found, then it will be used for the processing. So, it will go sequentially from 1 to 2 to 3 and so on. And in other words, it retrieve the desired data. The system must access all the memory address until it reaches the desired data. So, this is the sequential. What are the properties of the sequential access? Sequential access memory data retrieval process executed in the sequential manner, number 1. Number 2, the system starts from the beginning of the memory and goes sequentially through all the memory addresses until the desired data is obtained. Sequential access memory has a slower access speed and longer read-write time. Magnetic tape are the example of the sequential access memory devices. What is a random access? As we discussed, directly we can access the memory, and it's type of memory in which the desired data can be accessed directly without going through the processing data. Hence, this memory allows to access any data in any order. So, random access memory, we will get the data directly. Direct access memory or the random access memory has the ability to read from or write to data in any memory location in the same time. So, hence the access time of all the memory cell is the same, and it does not depend upon the physical location of the cell within the memory array. Now, what are the properties of the random access memory? Random access memory allows the data to be accessed in any random order, and it provides a high speed data access, fast read and write operations. All the memory location of the random access memory are directly accessible to processing element of the digital system. Example of the random access memory are RAM, ROM, hard disk, optical disk and other semiconductor memory devices. Now, sometimes we divide the memory devices into the primary memory and the secondary memory. So, what is the primary memory? That is the main memory which we have discussed previously. That is the internal memory, that a computer system temporary storage component which is directly accessible by the central processing unit, and it is houses data of the immediate processing. What are the characteristics of the primary storage? That is the volatile, data is lost upon, power lost, high speed access, limited capacity. Related to the secondary storage, random access, RAM and read-only memory, cache memory are the primary memory. What are the advantages? It is the high speed access, data can be retrieved and stored very quickly, directly accessible by CPU, no intermediate steps are required from the data transfer. What are the disadvantages? As it is volatile, so data is lost when power is turned off, limited storage capacity compared to the secondary storage. Like primary memory relatively small, it is expensive, cost per unit is higher than that of the secondary storage. What are the application? Temporary storage, multitasking, buffering and caching. What are the secondary memory? Secondary memory or the external memory serves as a long-term storage of the data and programs, unlike the primary memory, and it is not directly accessible by the CPU and requires the input and output operation. What is the semiconductor memories? These semiconductor memories that are the secondary, these are the semiconductor made devices, and if we talk about the characteristics of the secondary memories, it is a non-volatile, means data persists even when the system is powered off, slower access speed compared to the primary memory, high storage capacity. We are having examples of that like hard disk devices, solid state devices, optical devices, that is CD, DVD, Blu-ray. These are the drivers and hard disk drivers. These are the secondary memories. What are the advantages? It is a non-volatile, it persists the data, even the power turn off, large storage capacity, can store the vast amount of the data. Relatively inexpensive, cost effective for storing the large volume of the data. What are the disadvantages? Slower access time, required input and output operation. Slower access time, data retrieval is slower compared to primary memory, requires input output operation. Data transfer involves the additional steps. What are the application of that? It is a long term storage, operating system installation, software installation, data backup, media storage. So these are the another type of devices are the cache devices. This is also the temporary storage area, and this is known the cache, and it is more readily available to the processor when we talk about the computer's main memory system sources. So this is the cache memory, and it is called the CPU memory because it is typically integrated directly into the CPU chip. You see that all the data is going to the cache. Sometimes we just clear the cache and we just clear the access file there. We are having all the information about the access file. So CPU, we have placed a separate chip with the bus interconnected with the CPU, that will be in the form of the cached memory. Next is the virtual memory. That is a memory management technique where the secondary memory can be used as if it were a part of the main memory. So virtual memory uses hardware and the software to enable a computer to compensate for the physical memory storage by temporarily transferring the data from the RAM to the disk storage. So we use the virtual memory just for transferring the data from one internal device to the external device. Now we talk about the two main important memory devices, that is the RAM. One is the RAM and second is the ROM, which are most commonly used in the digital system like computer, laptop, smartphones and in the other devices. RAM, random access memory, ROM, read only memory. We will discuss what are the random access memory, how many types of the random access memory we have, and similarly we discuss the ROM and how many types of ROM memory we have. And we can reach into the memory at random and extremely fast, but can be also be quite expensive. RAM is a volatile memory storage unit, and data stored in it is lost when we switch off the computer or if there is a power failure. It is a volatile, so hence a backup uninterruptible power supply, that is the UPS, is often used with a computer so that data will not lose. RAM is a small both in terms of the physical size and the amount of data it can be hold. So, we will discuss what is RAM. RAM constitutes the internal memory of the CPU for storing the data, program and the program result. Means all the processing will be done in the RAM. It is a read-write memory and it is called the random access memory. Since the access time in the RAM is independent of the address to the word, that is, each storage location inside the memory is as easy to reach as other location takes the same amount of the time. So, it is easy to access the data through the random access memory. Whenever we just search, that is stored location, we can find in the RAM. Now, types of the RAM. RAM or a random access memory is classified into the two types. You see on the screen, this is the sum of the RAM devices. First is the static RAM and second is the dynamic RAM. Static random access memory, dynamic random access memory. So, SRAM, DRAM. What is the static SRAM? That memory retains its content as long as the power remains applied. However, data is lost when the power gets down due to the volatile nature. SRAM chip uses a matrix of the 6 transistor and no capacitor. This device is made of the transistor and these transistors do not require power to prevent leakage. So, SRAM need not to have to be refreshed on a regular basis. Because of the extra space in the matrix, SRAM uses more chips than the DRAM for the same amount of the storage space. So, SRAM uses the more chip as compared to the dynamic random access memory. So, this making the manufacturing cost higher in case of the static random access memory. So, static random access memory is mainly used as a cache memory, needs to be very fast and a small device. What are the characteristics of the SRAM? They are the most important characteristics of SRAM. Being a type of the RAM, SRAM is also volatile memory and thus it requires a continuous power supply and maintain store the data, and its power supply is removed or switch off, the data stored in the SRAM will delete. Like SRAM is high speed random access memory and does not need to refresh to maintain its stored data, and it is made up of the semiconductor components that are called the flip-flops, which store the data, and it is having a low storage density, and this is mainly because of its complex memory cell structure, and this is also result in a larger physical sizes. SRAM is most widely employed in digital system in which high speed data access is important. For example, it is used as a CPU cache memory, high speed buffer and the register in the microprocessor and the microcontroller. SRAM is relatively more expensive, and this is mainly because of its lower storage density and higher manufacturing cost. Next type of memory device, that is random access memory device, is the dynamic random access device, and this is the most commonly refreshed in order for it to maintain the data. This is done by placing the memory on a refresh circuit that writes the data several hundred times per second. DRAM is used for the most system memory because it is cheap and the small, and it is made of the memory cells, and these cells are composed of the capacitor and the one transistor. RAM made of the transistor, but this DRAM made composed of the one capacitor and one transistor. What are the characteristics of the DRAM? Most important characteristics of the DRAM, dynamic random access memory, are that first, DRAM is also a random access memory, hence it is a volatile memory, thus requires a continuous power supply, retains its stored data. The data stored in the DRAM is lost when the power is turned off. Next characteristics of the DRAM is that it is made of the capacitor and the transistor, where each memory cell can store a 1 bit of the data in the form of the electric charge in the capacitor. DRAM, to prevent losing the data due to the leakage in the capacitor, a refresh circuit is required for periodic refresh cycle, and this is the primary reason the term dynamic is used in the DRM. So, and access time is typically of the order of the nanosecond and is less expensive than SRAM. And this is all about the RAM and its type. Now we discuss the ROM. What is the next type of the how many types of the DRAM we have? First, dynamic random access memory, we have the various type of the dynamic random access memory. First is the synchronous DRAM, that is a SDRAM. This SDRAM are the synchronized and the speed of the memory along with the CPU block speed. By doing this, the memory controller, which is the digital circuitry maintaining the flow of data from and to maintain the memory, and it is aware exact clock cycle by which the demanded data will be ready. So, this CPU efficiency, from this CPU efficiency is improved, and it can be done many times that for a given time. So, typically SDRM works at the speed up to the 133 megahertz. Another is the Rambus DRAM. This is a Rambus DRAM is named after the company, and that introduces it, the Rambus, and it was mainly used for the video game devices and on computer graphics cards, and having the transfer speed ranging from ranging up to the 1 gigahertz. Next is the double data rate SDRAM. So, DDR SDRAM. This memory has nearly double the bandwidth of the single data, that is SDRAM, and it works on the principle of the double pumping, and this permits the data to be transferred on both the rising and the falling edges of the clock. This type of the memory has been succeeded by the DDR2, DDR3, DDR4 and most recently DDR5 and SDRAM. So, here we have discussed the types of the RAM. Now, we discuss the what is the ROM. ROM stands, ROM stands for the read-only memory. You see on the screen that this is the ICs that we use for the storage devices, and that is a memory device, that is a ROM. And this memory from which we can only read but cannot write on it, and this type of the memory is the non-volatile, and information is stored permanently in such memory during the manufacturing. The ROM stores such instruction as it required to start the computer when electricity is first turned off. This operation is referred to the bootstrap. So ROM chip are not only used in the computer but also in the other electronic items like washing machine, microwaves, ovens. In many electronic devices we use the ROM. There are the many type of the ROM like M-ROM, PR-ROM, EPR-ROM and EEPR-ROM, and we will discuss the different type of ROM in the next lecture. Up to now we have discussed the RAM, that is a random access memory, and it is type static and dynamic. After that we define the types of the dynamic memory. Now we will discuss the ROM in the next lecture. Thank you very much.